So we have Ralph and Jack as leaders. Ralph is a good leader. He wants to return to civilization, right? We see this in the fact that he is democratic, in the fact that his priority for the boys is to be rescued. Above all else, he wants the fire to stay lit. Jack is a bad leader, and he wants to leave civilization. His priority is not to be rescued. His priority is to act out on violent impulses, like hunting and, bloodshed, things that we wouldn't think of as part of civilization. So he wants to become more primitive, in other words. So here we're given the idea that, okay, civilization is good, right? And primitive state, so humanity's natural state, is bad. So which philosopher does this support? Okay, it supports Hobbes, right? Hobbes is the one that says, okay, humanity exists with original sin. Humanity exists in a state of evilness. We are naturally violent and competitive, and civilization provides a framework, a structure for us to cooperate with each other and communicate in a non-violent way. But then William Golding introduces more information, okay? So Ralph's leadership, where does the leadership come from? Well, when we're first introduced to Ralph, we're told that he is naturally charismatic. The children naturally like him. He's athletic, he's good looking, he's of slightly above average intelligence. Piggy has a choice of all the boys he goes to, and he goes naturally to Ralph. Okay, so remember, he's the, I wanted to say like all-American kid, but he's not. He's the all-British, well-fed, blonde, good-looking kid. Okay, so there's something naturally attractive about Ralph as a leader. Now, if we're talking about instinct in nature, right? So then Ralph's leadership arises naturally. It's something that he instinctually entails. So that sort of supports Rousseau. The idea that in his natural state, Ralph is good, is pure. Now, Jack. Okay, where does Jack's leadership come from? When we're first introduced to Jack, William Golding purposely makes sure that we see Jack in uniform. If you remember, he shows up with the other choir boys. They're walking in a line. They're wearing their black uniforms. They are clearly part of an institution. They are part of civilization. Jack's leadership derives not from the natural characteristics that Ralph has, but from his position in society. And Jack knows this. When Jack is arguing with Ralph, and when Jack is saying he should be chief, what's the evidence he gives? He says that he can sing C sharp. Like, who cares, right? But this harks back to Jack's leadership in society. He's given leadership of the choir boys because of this skill. So Jack's idea of himself as a leader and his idea of his own authority comes directly from civilization. It has nothing to do with his natural instinctive character. So here you have, okay, the good leader is a naturally good leader. The bad leader, his leadership comes from society. So this doesn't support Hobbes, right? This supports Rousseau, the idea that humanity in its natural pure state is good and civilization encourages our bad instincts. Okay, so William Golding, he's not supporting either Hobbes or Rousseau. He sort of twists the idea around. So it's complicated. It's neither black nor white. So Ralph keeps his leadership through rational decision making, democratic rule, and patience. So typically when we think of rational decision making and democratic rule, we associate it with the trappings of civilization. But we're told that Ralph's leadership arises naturally. So we're left with a question. Is Ralph's rational decision making and patience a result of the civilization that raised him, or his own instinctual nature? Right? Is Ralph a good leader because of his natural skills, or is Ralph a good leader because he was raised in civilization? We don't know. Similar thing with Jack. Okay? Jack's leadership comes from civilization, but he's a bad leader and he wants to now leave what we would consider to be civilization, right? So there's a supporting of both Hobbes and Rousseau. Jack keeps his leadership through violence, physical strength, and superstition. So is Jack's violence and superstition a result of the civilization that raised him, or his own instinctual nature? Again, we don't know. So William Golding creates this thought experiment. He takes these boys out of civilization and puts them on an island and asks the question, okay, what is humanity's natural state? Are we good or are we bad? Is civilization good or is civilization bad? And he doesn't just hand us the answer, right? He creates a sort of dualistic answer, and it sort of depends on how we want to interpret what he's given us at this stage. So I'd like you to keep this in mind as you continue to read the story. I want you to think about the leadership, so how Ralph leads, how Jack leads, where their leadership comes from. I want you to think about civilization. Is civilization something that encourages us to cooperate and be a community? Is civilization something that prevents us from acting on our evil instincts? Or does the materialism of civilization and the pretense and hypocrisy within civilization encourage us to act on our evil instincts? Is it good or is it bad? And what about human beings? Are we naturally good? Are we naturally bad? So ask yourself these questions as we continue to read the novel.